Gen Z is in crisis. My friends, real talk here. I'm 27 and I have social skills. I am very active in trying to build community. And I shit you not, for the past decade, it's felt like I've been screaming into the void. Like, where are my people? Where are the men and women my age? Where are the mentors on my path? Like, where is the village? And the reality is we live in the most atomized and disconnected time in human history. We are the loneliest generation to ever exist. So in this video, I'm going to be breaking down this exceptional map by Greg Guevara, the relationships you should have but don't. So we're going to watch this video. I'm going to respond throughout it, but at the end, I'm going to drop all my key points and what I've learned after a decade of searching out these relationships, finding them, losing them, and failing a million times. My friends, it's time we revive the village model of living and these deep bonds that once defined us and nourished us, or else we're actually screwed. So I think this is probably the most important social commentary of our times. We all need to be talking about this. So after that fiery intro, let's dive in.
I made a list of all the social relationships that we're missing and that we don't even know that we're missing. I made it into this nice little chart here. I think that the importance of describing social relationships that we don't have is so that we can keep our eyes out for the things that we're missing so that we can look for it, because you won't find what you can't describe. So I sorted this into underrated in green and overrated in red. And the underrated ones are things that you should be looking out for. The overrated ones are probably things that need less emphasis as a whole, I would say. You're the central node in this large network of possible social relationships that you could have. Now, why are you overrated? Well, it's because socially we've been fed this message that you either need to take self-care days and really focus on yourself and really just help yourself and start with yourself first. Put your own gas mask on before helping others. Some truth to that, certainly. But it's also a very atomizing perspective. So is the Sigma grind set, I need to make $1 bajillion by staying alone, going monk mode, going eunuch mode, and locking yourself away in a room and just grinding and working and staying in your little cave, thinking that's going to change anything. So
much of the modern things on YouTube, the self-improvement, the self-help, so much of it is a cope for exile. Like, I just think about this in the fact that to our ancestors, to ancient nations and cities, the idea of exile from the tribe, exile from the community would have been seen as the worst fate. Almost death was preferable to exile. And right now, the majority of you watching this are exiles to some degree. Like, we don't have a strong tribe around us. And so much of the content we watch, all this like self-improvement we try to do, is to cope with this fact that we are in exile and we lack meaningful connections that once inspired us. And I think there's so much overemphasis on the individual, when in reality, the real growth will happen by creating this larger sphere.
But what happens when you have friends and family? What happens when you've filled out those roles? Well, we assume that there's only one role left to fill out: lover. This is the one that we all fantasize about. This is the one we dream about. This is the one we think will fix us. So we get into a series of relationships, and the relationships have all of the pressure of all these other social relationships concentrated over here. My point is, lover is a highly overrated concept. Don't get me wrong, okay? Romantic love is a beautiful thing. Being physically intimate with someone, it's nice. It's a part of life. It's a good part of life. It's also not the only thing that matters. I don't know why I have to say this, but I really can't get this through your skull enough. If this is all you have, you don't have much. And
my friends, we so overrate love, maybe because we're thirsty for it, but I think it's because we lack a completed Maslow's hierarchy of needs. For instance, I've been in a deeply codependent relationship where it's only me and her. And that whole time I was in that relationship, you know what I was longing for? I was longing for a best friend. I was longing for some rivals and enemies and mentors and elders and just a circle of peers. I was longing for a completed Maslow's hierarchy of needs, in the sense of, if you're getting into a relationship and you don't have your basic needs met, like your security, your food, your finances, and things like that, but you also don't have your love and belonging met outside of that relationship, you're going to try to get everything. You're going to try to reduce an entire village into one person. It's going to create a very codependent relationship that's probably going to break your heart or just lead to a really difficult relationship with that person. So it's like filling out Maslow's hierarchy of needs, of figuring out your foundation, figuring out your love and belonging, figuring out your purpose. And this is what this whole other sphere is supposed to help you do, is come into sovereignty and autonomy as a human being that is well connected and has many outlets. And we just so over prioritize this lever.
If this is all you have, if this falls apart, you have nothing. Because what happens?
That's such a good point right there. When this falls apart, you have nothing. A few years ago, I went through a really difficult heartbreak. And after that, I was just traveling in my van, totally isolated. I remember like sitting in the deserts of Sedona, traveling through libraries in Austin, Texas, and not knowing a single soul, not feeling bonded to a single person in the entire world. And this lasted for months. This was an echoes of, all these other times in my life where I felt that deep, aching loneliness. And the thing is when you invest in a lover, the crazy thing is that can go away in a moment, in a day. I just broke up with my recent ex a couple months ago. I had invested 4 months of my time, love, and energy into her. And now it's just gone forever. And yeah, I learned a lot from that relationship, but ultimately the time and energy I invest into my friends and my best friends and my larger circle, like the ROI on investing into homies, into brotherhood is so much higher than a lover. Now, that's not to discount the importance of a lover, but damn, like the ROI on love is really low sometimes.
What happens when we've got a lover? We spend less time with friends. We spend less time with family. We put all of our social relationships into this. All of the other social relationships we should have. The pressure of a mentor, a rival, an elder, an enemy, a peer, an acquaintance, a best friend goes into your lover. And they cannot be all of those things. They never will be. A good lover exists in the context of a broader community and is someone that is integrated with your broader community, so you guys can't just be sociopaths towards each other. So, yeah, I would say highly, highly overrated. So, moving on to some things that are underrated. How about best friend? Let's start with that. Remember being 5 and having best friends, and then you get older and you're like, well, maybe I shouldn't be hierarchical with my friendships. Maybe you should. Maybe you should know some people that you can call up at 3 a.m. and cry towards. Maybe you should know some people that if stuff went south for you, that they would sacrifice their own personal well-being, at least in the short term, to help you out. Do you have these kinds of people? Do you have these sorts of people in your life? If you don't, maybe you should be making some deeper connections with your pre-existing friends so that you can have that kind of relationship with them. But let's move on. Maybe that's not something you feel like you want, okay? Peers are people that do what you do. It can be if you're really good into breakdancing, then you have breakdancing peers. If me, I have an internet person community, and those are my peers. Some of them are my friends. Some of them are friends and peers. But yeah, these are good ways of seeing yourself in other people, in having a hierarchy to compete with.
I think we all here want best friends again. And we're going to talk about how to create those in a second, but there's a really deep problem in society with this upper quadrant, which we're going to dive really deep into. So this up here is called what I call your familiar world. And a familiar world is where you have a lot of acquaintances. It's like your larger community. And this is what has been absolutely annihilated by modernity and by social media, by dating apps, by all these things. Like, go outside, go to the town square, go to the park. Like, people aren't gathering like they once were. And for instance, like, people don't need to go out to bars to go meet girls to date. We don't need to go to dance. We don't need to go to, social events like badminton or whatever pickup games are in the park or whatever to meet people, because people are just retreating to online parasocial connections and also dating apps. For so long in my life, I've just been asking, like, where are the men and women my age? I didn't go to college. I've never worked a normal job. And it's been so difficult to find where are the people my age, especially when I was a younger man. In my early 20s, it's like all my friends are in school and work has a monopoly on socialization. So it's basically like our circle of friends has really shrank even in those scenes. And the problem is when we don't have a large circle of peers, I would make this circle of peers much larger. Actually, this like whole top quadrant is a circle of peers, because that is where you filter in friends and best friends, right? Like, good dating and good friend making should be like that first day in college or that first year in college, where all of a sudden you're surrounded by hundreds of people your age, right? And you get to know many women your age. You get to know many men your age. You build this familiar world where you're interacting with people on a consistent basis, a daily basis or a weekly basis, and you get to know many people. And as you get to know many people, the kindred ones just start resonating with you. Like you find them, you attract the tribe. The problem is even if you have a really strong resonance in the world, you're doing the personal development, you're doing the work, and like you're actively seeking out community, if you don't have many social engagements on a consistent basis, you won't build a familiar world. And it's only in a familiar world that you will actually filter out really good friends and really good women. Like good dating only can happen in a familiar world. Now, this other thing he says is really important here too.
Having a hierarchy to compete with. If you're doing really well on YouTube, then you can feel good about it because you're doing better than the people around you. And if you don't have real people in your life, then your peers are just like online people. And then what? You're competing with fake people that don't exist, that you don't know, and that will not celebrate your wins with you, that will not mourn your losses with you. What do you have if you don't have peers?
So social filtering happens through status. And status gets a really bad rap today because we associate status with things like money or, a lot of these more superficial indicators like how someone looks. But the crazy thing is that kind of status only exists in unfamiliar worlds. So on dating apps, your superficial status matters a lot more, but your real status doesn't get to come through. If you're a very, very developed person, you have charisma, you have leadership skills, you have good character, like you're social and you're working on your social skills, those shine through when you're in a familiar world and you're interacting with people consistently. For instance, the first day of college, right? No one knows each other. And in the first day of college, most of the girls are going to be attracted to the few most attractive men, and the same thing vice versa. But as the months and days and weeks go on, all of a sudden you get to know someone's real status, like who really has it going on, and also whose character matches you, whose personality matches you, and all of a sudden dating evens out a little bit more. The reason that dating is so broken in the modern day is because real status has gone away and everything has been replaced with an unfamiliar world of superficial status. And also for men out there, we feel a lot of value and self-worth when we excel at something with peers. I think about football for me. And the competition, with the other people playing my position, it felt really good to excel at my position. And it felt like there was this camaraderie and competition happening. And this is what happens in larger social spheres is you can actually excel and get the recognition from your peers. And so many men and women out there are just grinding alone and not receiving that recognition, not receiving that ego support that they need, and also getting reflections from many different types of people and interacting with many different types of people to filter people into your inner circle. So the last thing I want to say on this part of the familiar world is, again, it's a filter. So status is a filter for women for vetting men, just like competition amongst men and interacting with many men is a filter to bring in friends, to bring in best friends. And the smaller our familiar world is, the smaller the funnel for choosing good friends and good best friends. And because that funnel is so horrifically small right now, especially if you're not going to a normal college and you're not working a normal job, because that funnel is so small, it's going to be really hard to find the ones you really connect with. Again, I'm going to have all the tools for doing this at a very high, highly intelligent level at the end of this video, but I just want to say that here.
When we had communities, we would have all of these things, and then we forgot. We forgot. We got amnesia. And we decided, all we need is this, this, and that. And we don't even need really this and this. Mostly what we just need is that, lover.
My friends, you don't need a girlfriend. You need a brotherhood, and you need purpose, and you need a community. Find those things. Find your tribe, and you will attract your woman. This is so important because the last relationship I had, in fact, all relationships, all deep and meaningful romantic relationships I've had with women have come from engaging with my tribe. I was at a festival and I was surrounded by some of my best male friends, all of them badasses, all of them leaders in their own right. And when this girl that I once knew found me there and I was surrounded by my tribe, right? And I just brought her into my tribe, like, wow, look at this guy. He has his brotherhood around him. He has his needs met. It felt really nourishing for her. And we ended up getting into a relationship. And my friends, building your tribe, building your community, building your circle is the best way to find the right woman for you, find the healthiest woman for you. She's not going to come from, like, I've done hundreds of cold approaches, and, I've tried dating apps and all those things. And like, the best women, they come from your community. And the larger you expand your inner circle and outer circle, the better chance you have of finding that girl. So stop looking for the girl and start looking for badass friends and building a badass community around you.
Like, just having someone to help me with my life who is similar to me, who I would like to be more like in some ways. Highly, highly underrated. I think when people look at me weird for having a mentor, I look at them weird for not having a mentor. I think it's kind of messed up that they don't, because it's such a useful...
This is one of the saddest parts of our society right now, is our elders and mentors and, community leaders. These things are kind of pushed to the side because we don't have consistent community anywhere. The idea of church has fallen away. Even the shared social identity of living in a town or living in a city is gone. Like, the respect we have for community leaders within a town or city is gone. And also, there's lack of coherence between the generations. Like, we don't really hang out with people in a stratified age group. We don't really hang out with people in our age group. We're just atomized. And this is one thing I'm trying to solve through the Men's Academy. I'm trying to solve both of these things. Is in the Men's Academy, we have a stratification of men at all different ages and walks of life and levels of development. And I think it's so important to find someone who is in that mentorship role for you. For instance, I have two friends who are both very successful YouTubers, older than me, starting families, and just being with them for 1 hour, man, I get the best reflection. But it's hard to find these. Again, it's because we don't have a big familiar world. Mentors, really important.
Now, a lot of people are like, well, what does the mentor get out of it? Imagine you're 40.
What he's getting at is the value for the mentor is just the fact to have someone engaged and enthusiastic, learning from him, admiring him. And it's so freaking rewarding to have that exchange of energy. And especially as people get older, we need to return to the village model of living for 1,000 reasons. Number one is the raising of children. Is when the raising of children is done with elders around, the elders take off a lot of that burden from the parents. And also, it's very rewarding for the grandparents. How can we raise kids in a way that doesn't make both parents into slaves, right? How can we, cultivate a relationship where our elders feel valued and the kids have a relationship that isn't just their family? Okay, we're going to jump right to rivals and enemies before I go into some of the notes and tips that I've written down for building this kind of community.
Rival. Okay, a rival... I drew this overlapping with enemies and peers. A rival is someone that pushes you to be better and that you have some real fundamental disagreements with. But you would never want them to fail, because you want to just be a little bit better than them. You want to keep competing against them, and you want to keep smashing your own ideas against their ideas. And if it's like a peer rival relationship, it can be like a loving, positive relationship. You guys aren't trying to fuck each other over.
A lot of my best friends started out as my rivals. This is hilarious to think about. But I was reflecting in 4th grade, my best friend from almost my whole life, we started out as rivals on the wrestling mat and rivals on the playground. Literally, we weren't friends. We just competed against each other. And it's the same for my best friend in high school. Intellectually, we were absolute rivals, competing against each other in classes, on tests, intellectually. Literally, we'd get together to play chess, play ping pong, study, and compete intellectually on our homework and on our tests. Both of those best friends, I honestly didn't even like them, either of them, for the first year. So it was our rivalry that created an enormous friendship that, keeps on giving to this day, like 20 years later. And those rivalries pushed me to greatness. And this is something you see across history. It's like Michelangelo and Da Vinci were spitting at each other on the streets, bickering on the streets, and pushing each other to become the greatest artists, maybe in human history. Rivalry is across the board. You see it with Achilles and Hector in the Iliad. You see it amongst most great men. Was this massive competition. Think of Nikola Tesla and Edison, competing to create the right current. So again, if we have a larger circle of a familiar world, it's like oftentimes we're kind of sniping. And this is a really important point. Oftentimes we're sniping to find, the hot, sexy woman who matches us, the woman of our dreams. And we're also sniping to find our best friend. But let these relationships come organically through interacting, with the circle of peers around you. And oftentimes rivals turn into best friends, and women friends can turn into lovers. And that's kind of the way it should be. So rivals are really important. And I think we only prioritize like the light relationships now, because we have this luxury of retreating from social life, retreating from communities or interactions that don't feel good. But I think rivalry, competition, these things, especially amongst men, are so freaking important. So like, don't discount it just because someone thinks differently than you or is, in competition against you. Like, they have the capacity to push you to greatness and become your best friend. So thank you, Greg Guerva. I want to move on to how do we actually start rebuilding all these circles, this village, in our real life. And I just want to get through like some rapid fire bullet points of things that actually have worked for me in my life. And the first thing that we all must do is start building our familiar world in every way possible. The familiar world, you can build it online and in real life, which we're going to talk about. So there's two main points in building your familiar world. Is one, you have to go to places where you will see people repeatedly. So go to places where you see people repeatedly. For instance, like I like to go to dance and I like to go to volleyball. I like to go to the same cafe and I like to go to the same sauna cold plunge center. And when I go repeatedly, I see the same faces consistently, right? So I start saying hello to people. And that's the second thing, is like go to places where you will see the same people repeatedly and say hello, be social. The cool thing about being in these spaces is it doesn't feel like a cold approach if you're sitting in the sauna next to someone else. You can just be like, yo, what's up? I like that tattoo on your leg. Tell me about it, right? So just be social, like literally make it a challenge for yourself to do things socially. I like to work in public, right? I like to sauna, train, cold plunge in public, dance in public, play sports, play volleyball, all these things. So do those two things. And, here's a life hack, major life hack here, is go to places where you have status, go to places where you fit in naturally. For instance, if you're really into, let's say, like intellectual debate and chess, you probably don't need to go to a rock music concert if that's not your thing. You're going to have no status there. You're going to feel like an outsider. But if you have status at chess club, for instance, right, you have an easy access point to every single person in that community. And if you really want to take this to the next level, is like go build status in places you feel drawn to, right? Music scenes, everything we're about to talk about here. So the best places to meet people, this is a really brief list. Again, this is much more comprehensive in the course I have. But the best places to meet people is go find the best cafe or co-working space in your town. Co-working spaces are pretty hip for young people, and they're popping up all over the place. Another one is the gym or a sauna, cold plunge center. I love the recovery center. Everyone there is focused on health. They're all focused on self-improvement to some degree, and it attracts a lot of young people between the ages of 20 to 40. Sauna Cold Plunge Center is awesome. Also boutique gyms. So a climbing gym, a martial arts gym, or a yoga studio. Like go get involved in these places. And better yet, if you can become a climbing instructor, become a martial arts instructor, become a yoga teacher, you instantly increase your status in this place. So people are literally paying to come interact with you, right? You have, my friends, there's a reason that bartenders get more women than doctors, right? It's just because they have status in a certain place. So that's a key for building friends and dating. Classes and workshops are great because social interaction is encouraged there. So dance classes, I don't know, pottery workshops, art workshops, dancing. I mean, this is the best way on planet Earth to meet women, is get into the dancing scene. Ecstatic dance, you know, swing dancing, tango, fusion dancing, like learn to dance. Festivals, this is a big one we'll talk about in a second. Conferences. So if you like to dance, you're into music, you're into like flowy stuff, like my friends, find festivals that are really good, that are really up your alley, and you'll meet awesome people there. And even at like, you know, the festival I love to go to, it's more of like a hippie-ish festival, but goddamn, I shit you not, there are 2 places I've met the majority of my friends, the majority of my inner circle. Half of them have come from a single festival. So especially if you can build status at that festival, great. The other place to go is conferences. If festivals aren't your thing, conferences are great. I was just at a crypto conference, met all these entrepreneurs, got invited to Portugal, got invited to this guy's land in Costa Rica that I'm going down to in a couple of months. Conferences, badass. Parks, towns, town squares, these are great. Now, here are 2, I would say the most important ones here is dancing, festivals, conferences. But these 2 are master keys, and that's retreats and immersive experiences. My friends, if you pay money to join a mastermind, you pay money to go to a retreat. And especially if that retreat is really in alignment with your interests and innate passions, you will meet incredible people there. Immersive experiences are tailored to bring us past the superficial into a deeper level of authenticity and relationship to other, where people can actually see you. So if you feel shy, you have trouble relating to people in a superficial way, go seek out classes, workshops, retreats, and immersive experiences. This is where you'll meet high quality women and high quality friends who are already vetted to be like you. And a lot of people, you know, don't want to pay for social engagement. But the thing is like, you know, you pay $2,000 for a retreat with 20 people, and it's maybe a martial arts and movement retreat like Budokan up in Montana. You meet like 20 awesome freaking people, and you get a couple lifelong relationships from that can change your life forever. Ultimately, one hello can change your life forever, because you can meet an inner circle person, a best friend, a rival, a mentor, right? A lover. One hello, my friends. And this is also why to say one hello is because if you meet a key community guy, a glue guy, right? He will invite you to rad events that he or she puts on. So I know a couple of these women in Denver. They're literally the center of community. They run big events. They invite all these people to volleyball. They're constantly inviting me places. Whenever they invite me somewhere, I know it's going to be high quality vetted people, right? So I can just go there and interact and build my network, build my familiar world. So it's like you meet one key community player, you know, and become friends with them, and they'll invite you places. And this, like going to potlucks, going to barbecues, parties, you know, concerts in the park, through a key community player, I mean, this in terms of the 80-20 principle, is going to save you years of time. So I would recommend doing these things to meet a key person. And when you meet a key person, they will introduce you to their entire network. And this is how, you know, this is the keys of like the social climbers in LA, you know, of how they want to like, you know, keep doing networking to gain status and money and all these things. But I want to use the social climber techniques to how do we build villages of badass friends, you know, badass mentors, also a tight-knit circle of true friendships between men, you know, good lovers, like build the whole village model out again. Comment below, where is your favorite place to meet people? What works for you? And then the last thing I want to say here, my friends, is online. So the 2 places I've met the majority of my best friends and lovers, I shit you not, is 2 places. One, festivals. The second one is YouTube. I've met the majority of my best friends through my YouTube channel, right? I hosted a retreat once. People came from my YouTube channel. Also, just people hitting me up through that link in the description, the apply below, right? They apply, they chat with me, they join our men's community, and then we engage consistently through calls, and we get to know each other. We build a relationship online, and I've seen these translate into friendships that have absolutely changed my life. I've met a mentor, a business partner, multiple business partners, and best friends, and even 2 lovers from the internet. And this is something that I encourage everyone to start cultivating and using. The internet is the greatest social filtering tool on the planet. Yes, the internet is probably the source and the reason that we have complete social breakdown today, but it's also the poison that is the cure. It can cure it in the sense of if you start leveraging the internet, right? Like joining our men's community to meet like-minded people, or starting your own YouTube channel, or engaging with creators that you really like, and talking to them, even paying for a one-off consultation with them and see if you hit it off, right? If you do this, you will start connecting with people around the world who are in high alignment with you. And if you are a high agency individual where you're liberating your resources, you're creating financial and locational freedom, all of a sudden you can go travel and meet these people and build relationships. I am about to go to a retreat with people I've met online that I feel super kindred with. I'm about to travel the world with people I've met online through the Men's Academy. I'm about, my friends, I have so many places around the world through YouTube that I could go and meet people. So the online sphere, it might be daunting, and a lot of people are like, oh, it's all superficial on there. Not if you cultivate authenticity and real connection through the internet, so use it intelligently. The best way to do this for everyone here is start an authentic YouTube channel. My friends, just scroll through your YouTube feed right now. I bet in the first 10 videos, you'll find one creator with less than 1,000 or even less than 100 views who's just speaking to his camera. YouTube promotes small creators, especially if you have a small channel. It'll promote that channel to other small creators in your niche. So if you start an authentic YouTube channel, right, and use it just as a means of self-expression and as a portfolio, right? Put out your node and then interact with other creators in your niche. Interact with other small creators. Try to collaborate with them, do a podcast with them, make a video with them, comment on their shit on X or whatever. And just like that, you could build a relationship that changes your life forever. My friends, you have access to the greatest social filtering tool on planet Earth. Let me repeat this. You have access to the greatest social filtering tool ever seen. The ability to connect with highly aligned, like-minded people from all over the world, to filter billions of people to find people who think and feel just like you. And all that is required is that you put out an authentic node into the interwebs, and you join niches and you join communities that are going to help you connect with those people. And this is what we can build. If we can actually leverage the internet to build real relationships and culture online, it can translate into real world meetups, real world collaboration, and even real world towns. And that is the goal and the mission of what I want to do in my life is let's start a new town. Let's start a new village. Let's start a new city and create a model for how to retribalize the world, which this video right here goes very deep into. Thanks for watching, my friends. There's a link below to join the Men's Academy to talk to me about it and also get the full Building Tribe and Social Capital course. Thanks for being here. Peace.